Welcome to BookBuzz Reviews and Summaries. Imagine this. You're standing at the edge of a defining moment. Maybe it's a crucial presentation at work, a high-stakes exam, a championship game, or even a life-altering conversation. Your heart pounds, your palms sweat, and a familiar voice in your head whispers, "Don't mess this up." The pressure is unbearable, and suddenly, despite all your preparation, self-doubt creeps in. What if you choke? What if you fail? We've all been there. The pressure of the moment seems to tighten around us like an invisible grip, threatening to undo all our hard work. But here's the truth. Pressure is not your enemy. It's a force, and like any force, it can be harnessed, controlled, and even used to your advantage. In performing under pressure, the science of doing your best when it matters most, Dr. Hendrie Weisinger unlocks the secrets of thriving in high-stakes situations. Through cutting-edge research, real-world case studies, and practical strategies, this book reveals how the best performers, athletes, CEOs, doctors, and even elite military operatives turn pressure into power. So, what separates those who rise to the occasion from those who crumble? What if you could train your mind to perform at its peak, not despite the pressure, but because of it? If you're ready to master the science of peak performance, silence self-doubt, and step into the moment with confidence, you're in the right place. Get ready to redefine your relationship with pressure, because your best moments are waiting. Part 1 Summary. Pressure. It's the invisible force that can either push us to greatness or cause us to crumble. In performing under pressure, Weisinger and Polly Fry explore how pressure impacts our minds and bodies and, more importantly, how we can train ourselves to thrive in high-stakes situations. The book is packed with psychological insights, real-world examples, and practical tools to help anyone, whether an athlete, executive, student, or performer, handle pressure effectively. Chapter 1. The Science of Pressure: Why We Choke. The book opens with an unsettling truth. Pressure isn't just stressful, it actively diminishes our ability to perform at our best. While many believe that pressure enhances performance, Weisinger and Polly Fry debunk this myth using neuroscience and psychology. They distinguish pressure from stress. Stress is a response to ongoing challenges, like managing deadlines. Pressure occurs when the outcome significantly impacts our identity, success, or future, like a job interview or championship game. They highlight famous, choking incidents, like top athletes missing critical shots or seasoned public speakers freezing in front of a crowd, to show how even the most skilled individuals can falter under intense pressure. The authors explain that pressure triggers the fight-or-flight response, which shuts down the prefrontal cortex, responsible for logical thinking and decision-making, and floods our body with cortisol, leading to tunnel vision, shaky hands, and mental blocks. Instead of rising to the occasion, we often fall to the level of our worst habits. Chapter 2. The Pressure Trap: Why We Fear It So Much. Why does pressure feel so overwhelming? This chapter explores the deep psychological roots of our pressure response. The authors reveal that pressure intensifies when, 1, we feel that the stakes are extremely high. If I don't ace this exam, my future is over. 2, we believe there is only one chance to succeed. This is my only shot to impress my boss. 3, we perceive that we are being judged. Everyone is watching me. These thoughts create a self-fulfilling prophecy. The more pressure we feel, the more likely we are to choke. Weisinger and Polly Fry introduce the fear of failure loop, a cycle where our fear of failing makes us hyper-focused on failure itself, leading to poor performance. One fascinating study they discuss involves students taking a high-stakes test. When they were told their performance would determine their future, they scored significantly lower than when they believed the test was just for practice. The difference? Perceived pressure. Chapter 3. The Pressure Response: How Our Brains Sabotage Us. In this chapter, the authors delve into the biological mechanics of pressure. The amygdala, our brain's emotional center, overreacts under pressure, triggering anxiety and clouded thinking. The prefrontal cortex, responsible for rational decision-making, gets overridden, making it harder to think clearly and react calmly. The dopamine system, which helps with motivation and reward, often malfunctions, leading to either overconfidence or self-doubt. Weisinger and Fry also explain why we struggle to think creatively under pressure. When stakes are high, we default to rigid thinking, clinging to safe, familiar solutions rather than adapting to the situation. They illustrate this with an example from elite military training. Soldiers who learned to control their pressure response performed significantly better in combat simulations than those who let adrenaline take over. The key? Training the brain to stay cool under fire. Chapter 4. The Cost of Pressure: How it Affects Our Lives. Many people believe that pressure makes them stronger, but this chapter proves otherwise. Long-term exposure to pressure can have serious consequences, including chronic anxiety and burnout, weakened decision-making skills, damaged relationships due to irritability and short tempers, health problems such as high blood pressure, insomnia, and heart disease. The authors introduce the concept of the pressure paradox. On one hand, we believe pressure makes us perform better. On the other hand, the reality is that excessive pressure hurts our performance. They cite an experiment in which business executives were placed in high-pressure negotiations. The ones who viewed pressure as a threat performed significantly worse than those who reframed it as a challenge. The takeaway? How we interpret pressure determines whether it helps or hinders us. Chapter 5. The Power of Perception: Reframing Pressure. If pressure is inevitable, how can we make it work for us instead of against us? This chapter introduces the pressure reframing technique, a powerful method to shift our mindset and regain control. Weisinger and Fry outline 3 core reframing strategies. 1. Adopt a challenge mindset. Instead of seeing a pressure-filled situation as a threat, view it as a challenge. Example: a tennis player can see a championship match as an opportunity to showcase their skills, rather than a do-or-die situation. 2. Detach your identity from the outcome. Many people struggle under pressure because they believe that failing means they are a failure. The authors recommend shifting focus to the process, not the result. Example: instead of obsessing over landing a job, focus on preparing well and presenting your skills confidently. 3. Use positive visualization. Pressure thrives on negative thinking. Instead of imagining failure, visualize successful performance. This technique has been used by Olympic athletes, surgeons, and CEOs to maintain composure. Chapter 6. The Role of Preparation: How to Train for Pressure. This chapter emphasizes a fundamental truth. Pressure doesn't create champions, preparation does. Weisinger and Fry explain that elite performers succeed under pressure not because they're immune to it, but because they've trained for it. They introduce the 3-step pressure training model. 1. Simulate pressure. If you want to handle pressure better, you need to practice under pressure. Example: a public speaker should rehearse in front of small audiences before a major event. 2. Develop pressure rituals. Establishing a pre-performance routine, deep breaths, power poses, self-talk helps regulate anxiety. Example: a tennis player bouncing the ball before serving to reset focus. 3. Build pressure tolerance gradually. Start with low-pressure situations and gradually increase intensity. Example: practicing sales pitches with colleagues before presenting to big clients. The key insight from this chapter? The more we expose ourselves to controlled pressure, the better we handle real pressure. Thoughts on Part 1. Part 1 of Performing Under Pressure is an eye-opening deep dive into the psychology and neuroscience of pressure. It shatters the myth that pressure makes us better and reveals how, in reality, it often hinders us. However, the authors also provide hope. By understanding our pressure response and learning to reframe it, we can master the art of performing when it matters most. In Part 2, Weisinger and Fry will introduce specific pressure-reducing techniques and actionable strategies to help us consistently perform at our best. Stay tuned. Part 2 Summary. Now that we understand how pressure affects the brain and body, the authors shift their focus to actionable strategies for performing at our best, even in high-stakes situations. Part 2 of the book provides practical tools backed by science that can help anyone from executives and athletes to students and performers thrive under pressure. Chapter 7. The 22 Pressure Solutions, Small Changes, Big Results. Weisinger and Polly Fry introduce 22 practical strategies for reducing pressure in real time. These techniques are designed to help us shift our perspective, regain control, and improve our ability to think clearly under pressure. Here are some of the most effective pressure solutions. 1. Shrink the importance of the moment. When we perceive an event as life or death, pressure skyrockets. Solution: remind yourself that this is just one moment in time. Example: a job interview might feel critical, but in reality, many opportunities will come in the future. 2. Focus on the process, not the outcome. Pressure comes from obsessing over the result, winning, getting the promotion, scoring the goal. Solution: shift focus to the small steps that lead to success. Example: instead of worrying about passing an exam, focus on each question individually. 3. Normalize the pressure. Pressure feels overwhelming when we think we're alone in experiencing it. Solution: remind yourself that everyone feels pressure, even experts. Example: even professional athletes get nervous before big games, but they have learned to manage it. 4. Practice pressure situations. The best way to get comfortable with pressure is exposure. Solution: simulate high-pressure situations in practice. Example: a musician preparing for a big concert should practice in front of family and friends first. 5. Use effective self-talk. Negative thoughts amplify pressure, while positive thoughts calm the mind. Solution: develop a mantra or phrase to repeat in high-pressure moments. Example: a basketball player at the free throw line can say, "I've made this shot 1,000 times before." The chapter emphasizes that small mindset shifts can have a huge impact on performance under pressure. Chapter 8. The Power of Reframing, Turning Pressure into a Challenge. One of the most powerful tools for handling pressure is reframing, changing the way we see a situation. The authors introduce the concept of the challenge versus threat mindset. People who see pressure situations as threats tend to panic and underperform. Those who see them as challenges stay calm and perform better. How to reframe pressure as a challenge. 1. Ask yourself, what's the worst that can happen? Often, our fears are exaggerated. Example: if you bomb a presentation, will it truly ruin your career? Likely not. 2. Change the language you use. Instead of saying, "This is terrifying," say, "This is an opportunity." Instead of saying, "I have to do this," say, "I get to do this." 3. Focus on growth, not perfection. Pressure often comes from a fear of failure, but failure is part of learning. Example: instead of fearing a tough conversation with your boss, see it as a chance to grow professionally. By changing our perspective, we reduce anxiety and increase confidence in high-pressure moments. Chapter 9. Pressure and Confidence, How to Build an Unshakable Mindset. Confidence is one of the greatest antidotes to pressure. But how do we develop it? Weisinger and Polly Fry reveal that confidence isn't about fake bravado, it's about preparation and self-belief. Ways to build confidence under pressure. 1. Train with deliberate practice. Confidence comes from preparation. The more prepared we are, the more pressure-resistant we become. Example: a lawyer rehearsing arguments over and over will feel less pressure in court. 2. Visualize success. Mental imagery has been proven to enhance performance. Example: before a big meeting, visualize yourself speaking confidently and receiving positive reactions. 3. Develop pre-performance routines. Rituals help regulate the nervous system. Example: athletes often have specific warm-up routines to get into the zone. By consistently working on confidence, We can neutralize pressure before it even begins. Chapter 10: Emotional Regulation, Staying Cool in the Moment. Even with preparation, pressure can still strike. This chapter covers real-time techniques for calming the body and mind. 1. Control your breathing. Slow, deep breaths activate the parasympathetic nervous system, reducing anxiety. The 4-7-8 breathing technique: inhale for 4 seconds, hold for 7, exhale for 8, is a proven method for relaxation. 2. Slow down your reactions. Under pressure, people tend to rush decisions out of panic. Solution: pause, take a breath, and assess the situation calmly. 3. Focus on external cues. Pressure makes us hyper-focused on our own nerves. Solution: shift focus outward. Listen intently to the other person. Observe your surroundings. Example: a speaker who focuses on engaging the audience instead of their own nervousness will perform better. Emotional regulation is key to staying in control under pressure. Chapter 11: The Myth of Clutch Performance. Why some people shine under pressure. We often hear stories of people who are clutch, athletes who make game-winning shots, CEOs who thrive in high-stakes negotiations. But Weisinger and Polly Fry argue that clutch performance isn't about being naturally gifted, it's about preparation and mindset. Traits of people who perform well under pressure. 1. They don't see pressure as pressure. Instead of thinking, "This is a make-or-break moment," they think, "This is just another challenge." 2. They trust their training. When the moment arrives, they don't overthink. They rely on their habits and muscle memory. 3. They embrace mistakes. Instead of fearing failure, they learn from it and move forward. The authors highlight examples of top performers, from Serena Williams to emergency room doctors, who have trained themselves to stay cool in high-pressure situations. Thoughts on Part 2. This section of Performing Under Pressure is packed with practical tools to help anyone master high-stakes situations. The key lessons: pressure hurts performance if we let it take over. The way we think about pressure determines our success. Small shifts in mindset, preparation, and emotional control can make a huge difference. In Part 3, the authors will provide long-term strategies for becoming permanently pressure-resistant. Stay tuned. Part 3 Summary. In Part 3, the authors shift from short-term pressure solutions to long-term strategies for becoming a person who thrives under pressure. This section is about building permanent resilience, so pressure doesn't derail your performance, whether in high-stakes business deals, public speaking, or personal life challenges. The key takeaway? Pressure resistance is a skill that can be developed. It's not just about reacting well in the moment. It's about rewiring your brain and habits so pressure never gets the best of you. Chapter 12: The Power of a Pressure-Hardy Personality. Why do some people consistently handle pressure better than others? Research shows that it comes down to personality traits and mindset. 3 key traits of pressure-resistant people. 1. They take control. Instead of feeling like victims of circumstances, pressure-resistant people focus on what they can control. Example: a CEO facing an economic downturn doesn't panic. He focuses on strategy and adaptability. 2. They see pressure as a challenge, not a threat. People who handle pressure well reframe it as an opportunity to grow. Example: a doctor in a high-stakes surgery doesn't think, "What if I fail?" He thinks, "I'm trained for this." 3. They develop emotional agility. Instead of reacting impulsively under pressure, they pause, assess, and respond deliberately. Example: a firefighter entering a burning building doesn't rush in blindly. He assesses the risks first. This chapter emphasizes that these traits can be cultivated through intentional practice. Chapter 13: Building Long-Term Confidence for Pressure Moments. In Part 2, we learned that confidence is one of the best defenses against pressure. But how do we develop lasting confidence? 4 strategies for long-term confidence. 1. Master your craft through deliberate practice. The more skilled you are, the less pressure affects you. Example, a pilot doesn't feel extreme pressure in turbulence because they've practiced handling it thousands of times. 2. Use visualization to rewire your brain. Mental imagery strengthens neural pathways, making pressure moments feel more familiar. Example, a speaker visualizing a successful presentation reduces stage fright. 3. Develop a pressure history. The more small pressure situations you handle successfully, the more confidence you build. Example, if you practice handling tough conversations with colleagues, you'll feel less pressure in a high-stakes negotiation. 4. Adopt a fail-forward mentality. Confidence grows when you see failure as feedback, not a disaster. Example, a comedian who bombs a joke doesn't quit. He tweaks it and tries again. By actively developing these habits, you become a person who thrives in high-pressure situations. Chapter 14. Emotional Intelligence, the Ultimate Pressure Shield. Emotional intelligence, EQ, is one of the biggest predictors of how well someone performs under pressure. The good news? Unlike IQ, EQ can be trained and improved. 4 components of EQ that help with pressure. 1. Self-awareness. Recognizing when pressure is affecting you is the first step to controlling it. Example, if your hands shake before a speech, acknowledge it without panic. This is normal. I've felt this before. 2. Self-regulation. Emotionally intelligent people don't react impulsively to pressure. They control their response. Example, a trader doesn't sell stocks in a panic during a market dip. He stays calm and sticks to his plan. 3. Empathy and social awareness. Being attuned to others' emotions helps you stay grounded under pressure. Example, a leader who notices their team's stress can adjust the conversation to boost morale. 4. Relationship management. Managing interpersonal dynamics helps reduce pressure in group settings. Example, a project manager defusing a tense meeting by staying calm and composed. EQ isn't just about handling pressure better. It helps in every aspect of life and leadership. Chapter 15. Creating a pressure-resistant lifestyle. The best way to prevent pressure from negatively affecting your performance is to build a lifestyle that naturally reduces pressure. 5 habits for a pressure-resistant life. 1. Prioritize your physical health. A strong body supports a strong mind. Sleep, exercise, and nutrition impact how well you handle pressure. Example, athletes who maintain fitness and rest perform better under high-stakes conditions. 2. Develop a support system. Pressure is easier to handle when you have mentors, colleagues, or friends to lean on. Example, a high-stakes lawyer who discusses cases with a trusted colleague feels less alone. 3. Practice gratitude and perspective shifting. Gratitude reduces the feeling that everything is life or death. Example, a musician facing stage fright reminds herself, I get to do what I love. This isn't a threat. 4. Build resilience through daily challenges. Regularly pushing yourself outside your comfort zone builds resilience. Example, a salesperson who practices cold calling daily becomes immune to rejection. 5. Make pressure a habit. The more pressure you experience in controlled settings, the easier it becomes. Example, a surgeon who practices complex cases under simulated pressure is ready for real-life emergencies. This chapter reinforces that long-term pressure resistance is a lifestyle, not a quick fix. Chapter 16. The final takeaway, how to perform under pressure for life. In the final chapter, Weisinger and Polly Fry summarize the core lessons of the book. 1. Pressure is inevitable, but it doesn't have to be negative. The way we interpret pressure determines how it affects us. 2. Short-term pressure solutions help in the moment. Techniques like deep breathing, positive self-talk, and focusing on process over outcome can prevent pressure from derailing you. 3. Long-term pressure resistance is built through mindset and habits. Confidence, resilience, and emotional intelligence are trainable skills that make pressure a non-issue over time. 4. Your lifestyle determines how well you handle pressure. Sleep, Fitness, preparation, and a strong support network protect you from being overwhelmed by pressure. Final message. By applying these strategies consistently, anyone can retrain their brain and body to not just survive under pressure, but to thrive in it. Closing thoughts on performing under pressure. This book isn't just about handling one-time pressure moments. It's about rewiring your mind so pressure never stops you from performing at your best. Key takeaways. Short-term solutions like reframing pressure, positive self-talk, and deep breathing help in the moment. Long-term strategies like confidence building, emotional intelligence, and a resilient mindset make pressure a non-issue. A pressure-resistant lifestyle, healthy habits, support systems, and perspective shifting creates lasting mental strength. Who should read this? Leaders who want to excel in high-stakes decisions. Athletes and performers who need to stay cool under pressure. Students and professionals who want to ace interviews, exams, and presentations. Anyone who wants to stop letting stress control them. By mastering the science of pressure, you can unlock your full potential, no matter the stakes. Thanks for listening. Please like, subscribe, and click the bell icon to get new video updates.